Kia ora, everyone.
Kia ora.
Got sorry, I'm just gonna spotlight myself and spotlight our interpreter and spotlight Scott.
How's everyone going this morning?
Good. So we're gonna get started. So tēnā koutou katoa, ko Juliana tōku ingoa. Today we're super excited to be launching a partnership with Access Maps. But before we start this webinar, I'm just gonna open us up with a karakia. Whakataka te hou ki te uru, whakataka te hou ki te tonga. Kia makina, kia uta, kia matarata, kia tai. E hiki ake ana te atakura. He tio, he huka, he hohu, tihei, Maori ora. Seize the winds from the west, seize the winds from the south. Let the breeze blow over the land, let the breeze blow over the ocean. Let the red-tipped dawn come with a sharpened air, a touch of frost, a promise of a glorious day. Behold, there is light. Just some housekeeping before we crack on and listen to Scott. So if you need to ask a question at the end by speaking or signing, you can use the raise hand function, and our team will enable the audio and the video. Captions are available in two ways. You can click in the captions button at the bottom of the screen, or you can use the live transcript. Hope, can you pop in the chat the live transcript, please, that Catherine sent that to us? So this webinar is being recorded and it will be made publicly and available on the Access Maps website later. By staying with us, you are giving consent to be recorded. And I would like to introduce Scott. Scott is an American living in New Zealand for quite a while now. He is a very intelligent person who created a really cool app that make life for disabled people way easier. And by saving time on planning and having the information that you need to go to places at the tip of your hand. So Scott, I will pass to you, and I really look forward to hearing you share about this amazing app.
Well, thank you, Juliana, and thank you to everyone at Access Matters Aotearoa. This has been an incredible journey getting to know your work, your mahi, and being able to appreciate it from both afar and more closely through this partnership. Before we dive into everything, I wanted to first give a visual description if anyone requires a indication of who I am. I am a white American male wearing a white shirt with a little bit of a beard and brown hair. As Juliana mentioned, I've called New Zealand home for the past 11 years and have been so fortunate to be able to be in and embrace the community that we support. Lastly, before I dive into everything as well, I'd also like to thank our interpreter, Philippa, for being here and helping us make sure this is a truly inclusive webinar for everyone today. So without further ado, I'll try and share my screen and give a little bit more of an overview about Access Maps, Access Matters, how our partnership works, and why we're so excited about sharing what we're doing with pretty much everyone throughout New Zealand. So without further ado, I'll see if I can share my screen and we'll ask just the team to confirm if we're good to go. All right. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yeah, your screen is it's being shared. If you just can just grab whatever you have in the screen, that'd be amazing.
Perfect. So the first slide of the screen was a simple image with Access Maps logo and a young woman in a wheelchair, looking excited around the environment that she was in. move on to the next slides, I might move through at a slightly quicker pace, but I'll also be mindful of Philippa interpreting as I go and try and keep the pace more moderate. At the end of the presentation, I'll be giving the link to the slide deck to Juliana and the team to be able to share with everyone that's in attendance today. So at Access Maps, our main goal is to make it easy for organizations, councils, businesses, anywhere across the country to be able to capture and share accessibility information that is trusted and reliable, and not just in New Zealand, but also in Australia as well. So you can understand our excitement when we started working with Juliana and the team because they're a key leader around accessibility and inclusion in New Zealand. Understanding that both of our mahi overlap and provide such incredible synergy with each other, we thought that it would make just too much sense to be able to say, let's get behind this, let's be able to drive and make it easy for everyone to be able to capture and relay their information. One of the main reasons why we want to do this, I'm going to share a quick personal story that has been shared with me and also put into a blog by Sue. Sue is a wheelchair user who has shared her different experiences going out and engaging with the public. I'll paraphrase what's mentioned on screen, but we'll again link to all the information as we see more later on in the, once the webinar is concluded. So Sue has shared in a number of her blogs just what goes into being invited out as far as an experience in the community for work with friends, with family. And more often than not, the question is met with anxiety and just a sense of unknowing. And for 3 and 5 people with accessibility requirements, there is that fear in the sense of uncertainty whenever you're going to a new place, or even if there's a place that you have been to before that you don't know if the, should I say, resources or the, just say, accessible amenities are truly going to be there on a regular basis. More often than not, Sue has reflected and said that she finds herself ringing different venues, checking maps, parking, and everything that she can before she heads out. As Juliana alluded to earlier, this is all too common for members of our community, which is a real shame because 70% of people with access needs actually would spend a lot more time at local businesses, cafes, outings, if there was reliable information easily on hand. Sue also goes on to mention that she has found herself leaving within minutes because of effectively what we'd like to call the inclusion, should I say, side effect. Whenever we're looking to go out and attend different locations that are primarily in hospitality where people are coming together, more often than not, if you're calling up venues, asking questions over the phone, staff are going to be more likely to answer in the affirmative and not provide the most correct answer. And that's primarily because unless you have lived experience or are invested in what you're looking to know and understand, you're going to want to have more people joining rather than being turned away. And I think a key issue that we've sought out to solve and resolve through all this is the fact that less than 3% of websites in New Zealand are actually displaying the accessibility information of their venue in an accessible manner. So how are we going to be able to say this is not okay for where things are now, and also make sure that we're making a more inclusive leap moving forward? Because we know that 80% of accessibility requirements are non-visible, that we need to be able to take into account everything across the spectrum of accessibility, not just infrastructural accessibility or the idea of parking spaces or restrooms are everything that an organization needs to know about. How can we actually do this in a way that is manageable, inclusive, and is going to be able to make sure that everyone's dignity and respect is taken into consideration through the entirety of the process. So throughout everything that we've done at Access Maps, we've come up with a strengths-based approach that aims at one, reducing risk for everyone involved, members of the community, staff members, organizations, and is built in a way that takes a snapshot of how we are viewing the accessibility of where we are now and how we can progress further into the future. I hope you don't mind. I've just skipped through a few of the slides that have primarily had images of a person in a wheelchair with the corresponding text and have now gotten to effectively a screenshot of our product, how it works, and we'll dive into a bit more of our approach to accessibility, inclusion, and what a strengths-based approach means. Because for us, we want to actually identify and celebrate what every organization is doing right, or should I say, where they are in their accessibility journey now. And by doing this, we want to ensure that we are capturing the information as it is and ensure that it's also covering the spectrum of accessibility. So that means being able to record accurate information about physical accessibility. So, is there a level entrance? Where are the ramps? Are there stairs present? Are there tactile indicators? Can you please ensure that all of this information is framed, recorded in a way that we can also verify? Is the information being provided in a digitally accessible manner? Because more often than not, we've found that when information is captured around digital accessibility, it might be put up online in a range of either PDFs or photos, or if you're looking to say go to a restaurant and a large component of being able to enjoy a dining experience is being able to access the menu. If the menu is online and it's provided purely as JPEGs, that's not going to be digitally accessible for members of our blind community. What's the sensory accessibility of the venue? Are lights overly bright? What is the noise of the environment? Are you going to be confronted by, should I say, strong scents at different areas of the venue? And one of the big things that changes the perception of accessibility is also how do experiences actually influence the accessibility of a location. I had the pleasure of sitting down with a couple of councils in Australia a couple weeks ago and talked with them about how the marathon season that is coming up actually changes how accessible different parks, pathways, and areas of their community are impacted uh, on a regular basis just because an event is happening. So letting people know about what's happening in real time actually really helps mitigate risk and inform decision making. Or as so many people in the community know, if you're going to be planning an outing that might require, support staff, family members, and it all goes away because there's an event that is blocking off pathways, restrooms, or any other critical infrastructure, you want to know about that beforehand. And finally, we take into account cultural accessibility. This is diving into the staff training, awareness, and what it means for the human element within each of the organizations when it comes to accessibility, inclusion, and the visitor experience. So the way that our system works and why we've been so excited to partner with Access Matters is we want to make sure that ownership over this accessibility information sits with our partners. So we give them all the tools to be able to take ownership of their information, be able to record them, have them verified, and then present them in a way that is web content accessibility guidelines accessible. So that means being able to create their own profiles, be able to capture all of their own information and data, and then be able to present it in a way that is accessible to members of the community, either through their own website, through our maps, or through a combination of both, which we call our Maps network. For our overviews, these are effectively self-guided assessments that any manager or staff member is able to take up and be able to complete. They range in pretty much the number of questions, what is asked, because they're dynamic and they adapt to how the questions are actually answered. Most accessibility overviews can be captured within 15 minutes for, say, a single venue like a cafe or a library or a number of locations that are, should I say, have more straightforward visitor experiences. But they could also take a lot more time when we come into places where there are more, should I say, a wider range of conditions that you need to be aware of, like accommodation. So through all of this, we actually break things down easily into profiles. So being able to say, this is how an organization presents their venue, this is how they present their activities, and this is how they're actually presenting information around amenities like accessible parking, accessible restrooms, emergency meeting locations, accessible beaches, uh, you name it. And this gives us a greater way of being able to make sure that we're sharing this information across multiple organization profiles. The way that we do that is through the different ways that we display this information. We've talked about how an organization can take what they've captured, verified, and are now presenting through their website. But all that information shouldn't just sit on one website. It should be able to connect and help fill in the gaps for other organizations that are like-minded and focused on providing greater value to our community. So we've created access maps, which can pull information from a geographic area that the organizations have decided to share. So a great example of this, I would like to point at accessible parking in New Zealand as a whole, where about 40% of accessible parking is privately managed. If you are a city council, this is a great way of being able to say we have uploaded our own accessible parking information, but we're also able to pull in the information from privately run aquatic centers, shopping centers, airports, you name it. And it gives a more holistic view of what this means for a community member. So reliable information at any point. And the same can go in the opposite direction. So if we're creating a map that displays all of the, should I say, locations for a shopping center organization or retail shops, they can also choose to pull the information in of accessible parking that's been provided by local councils. That way, anyone that's looking to go and engage in their services can find the information right away. And I'd say the most important side of this is the fact that all the information also can pull in uh, alerts and warnings. So if a parking space is out of service because it's being repainted or has been impacted by severe weather, anyone can, any of the organizations can update their accessible amenities to show that they're not available. And then that will display across the whole network for anyone that's looking in that area. And it also means that if a city council or a wider emergency preparedness organization is warning about severe weather, uh, should I say, long-term hazards or anything along those lines, they can also display not just on their own map, but across multiple profiles, which means that if someone is looking to go and, should I say, go to a bank and find the nearest accessible parking spot, if that parking spot is out of order because of construction, roadworks, or anything else, they're able to find the next closest one, and it's not a wasted outing. And since we're capturing all this information, it means that what we can do is actually create dashboards for different organizations at a council, government, and enterprise level to be able to establish a baseline and better understand where they're at on their accessibility journey and connect them with organizations like Access Matters to be able to ensure that they are meeting more accessibility indicators over time. This gives a great way of being able to say this is where we're at, where we're going, and we've seen incredible work for the direction it can provide to organizations. So to summarize quickly, first aim is to make sure that we're reducing risk for everyone that's involved, making sure that it's easy for community members to engage with, and providing an easy and straightforward way for everyone to be able to participate. I'll provide a little bit more information about some of our key use cases in the city of Tauranga for everyone to engage with after the Correo is ended. But this is just a quick overview of how their project has actually evolved over the last couple of years, how they have actually taken this accessibility information and used it to inform their decision making as a region, and how it's actually impacted beyond just community participation, but ensuring that things along the lines of facility development, rehabilitation projects, and risk mitigation have actually all been impacted throughout this program. Not to mention the number of uses that their map has seen, both domestically and internationally, from both residents that live in the area and those that are visiting from overseas. And last kind of use case I'll touch on before we go has actually been the quest at Quest Mount Maunganui in Tauranga, where we actually saw their profile go slightly viral because they'd been had it shared by multiple members of the community to be able to see full details of their accessible rooms and facilities. And then I've actually had the privilege of reconnecting with the managers there recently, and they've let us know that their access page has actually become a kind of source of truth for their staff members to refer to internally. So they know they're relaying the most accurate information, and they share it with each of their guests before they arrive. So through all of that, they've seen their accessible rooms be booked out almost completely, or should I say, their number of booking days has been pretty much filled for those rooms since they came on board and their profile was made public. So lastly, I'll close with a couple of quotes from members of our community that one, we are so grateful to have their feedback and engage with, and also just state plainly, our partnership with Access Matters means a lot to us because we know that as a technology company and as someone that has only been in the disability support sector for the better part of 7 years now, that's not a long time in the grand scheme of things. There have been organizations that have been moving the needle on accessibility for longer than I've been alive. And we want to make sure that we're propelling the work of organizations that we believe in. So with our partnership with Access Matters, any organization that wants to sign up for Access Maps, one, use their promo code Access Matters, get a discount on your first year, and know that the amount discounted is also being matched and going directly to support Access Matters Mahi for now and the years ahead. So with all of that said, I'll leave this on the screen briefly. I'll hand back over to Juliana and see if we have any questions.
Sorry, Scott, thank you. That was great. We do have someone wanting to ask a question. So Tanya, and I know that Tanya is deaf. So what I will do, I just will enable her video so she can sign for the interpreter. Tanya, let me just. I will have to promote her as a panelist, and then she will be able to sign. Just a minute. Okay, Tanya, I will just now spotlight her.
I'm just
Spotlight. Yes, so Tanya can now make her question.
Hello, my name is Tanya. I'm deaf and I use New Zealand Sign Language. I have been involved in the Access journey with this MAPS just recently. So I was helping with the Wellington City Council. We've been working on a project there focusing on access in Wellington
Mhm.
and in the urban area. City, urban area in the Wellington region. So we're focusing on accessibility because 1 in 4 venues are accessible, and there's a lot of places that aren't. So we're looking at making footpaths and supermarkets and cafes and all of those sort of things become more accessible. So we're trying to work on that. So that's been our work for the last 3 months. So I understand you were talking about an app that people can have on their phone that they can set up to find out what's accessible. In 2006, I studied with what was it for the New Zealand Tourism Board, for Māori tourism. So I worked closely with them at that time, providing access and support there. So I've been involved in that since 2006. And also 2008, I was working closely with the council.
So what's your question, Tanya?
What's your question? You had a question. Yeah, I was just interested in the work that you were doing, and I just thought that's really similar to the work that I've been doing about trying to improve accessibility. I worked in a hotel before, and that was accessible. Yeah.
Nice. Well,
Thank you.
Tanya, thank you for sharing, and it's incredible getting to connect with so many people that are doing this incredible work, and as I mentioned, have been doing this work for years. We've recently been talking with kind of Greater Wellington to see how our tools and what we do could actually support mahi throughout multiple regions in New Zealand. And I'd love to actually reconnect, see how we can kind of, one, support any mahi that is already being done in regions overall. Because what we want to do is make sure that, one, when we're creating maps and apps, that all the stuff that we're doing is being taken up and owned by the different members that are supplying that data. So we're not creating a centralized app for ourselves. We create maps that can live within the communities and also be used by wider organizations as well. So touching on what we're doing with, should I say, pathways and accessibility in Greater Wellington, I'll have to reach out to a couple of my contacts there and continue to follow up on what they're working on and see how we can support. But also being able to touch on inclusivity in tourism is a big one. We just did an entire panel around inclusive tourism with Access Matters and the Korero for Change last week. And how everyone experiences tourism is completely individualized. So what someone views, should I say, their holiday or their outing is going to be different depending on the person, but there are certain things that are universal and benefit the community, not just those that are visiting temporarily. But yeah, love to hear more questions.
Oh my God, can you believe it's already I know time has gone super fast.
Mhm.
Scott, would you mind putting in the chat for everyone your contact details? Because
Yeah.
I know that people will have more questions and there are more questions popping in, but we make the booking for 30 minutes. And I can see that Kai put a question, does the app work for people who use the desktop, oh my God, desktop computer and don't use a phone? Yes, you can use in the desktop. But if you can put in the chat your contact details, please, everyone who's in the call, feel free to email Scott with all of your questions. The app is free for disabled people users. You can download the app for free. And for businesses who want to share the information, there is a subscription. And yeah, but the time is up. Can you believe it? I will have to close us off with a karakia. Yeah, and I hope you all send your questions to Scott. And thank you so much for being here with us today. So, pohihiri, po ravama, po te whakaro, po te tangata, po te aroha, te po herenei a tato, Maori ora ki a tato, humie, uie, tai kie. My clarity be yours, my understanding be yours, through reflection, through personal endeavor, through respect, the virtues which bind us as one. We be lifted with well-being for one another, bind us together. Ka kite.
Thank you, Juliana, and thank you to everyone.